Sarah, Jessica, can you hear me? That's what she said they're on. I just sent them. Oh, the pin is different on that thing that we're looking at, Natalia, than on the thingamajiggy. Wait. No, it's different. So the agenda is different than that. Maybe, can you go join that one, Natalia, to see? No, I mean from there, like if we click on that instead, because it says your meeting is ready. So I think if we click on there. This is weird.
What link do they have? Would it be easier for them to share with you the link and then you send it to me and then, I mean, I don't know.
I think they're on, so that pin is different than the pin on the agenda. That's what I'm saying.
Oh, this pin is up.
Yeah, you see how it says?
Yeah.
So is there a way to join that one?
If I press add others, what does that do?
I don't know.
Yeah,
I'll try.
Yeah. Creator call.
Yes.
Okay. So then you can add it by email or text or something?
Does that mean if anybody else wanted to join in, they're
Yeah.
not gonna be able to get in? Not that that won't happen.
Yeah. But this is something to tell Jeffrey about. I know.
This has been like 7 meetings in it's even, yeah. And
Okay, so now you're gonna.
Kelly just awes me with her skills on the phone. And I think it's a good thing. It is. See, my sister and I grew up. We wanted to do something. And we didn't want all that. And swimming in our teenage. So we.
But I even went to summer, I don't know, I had phones for dinner. I went to like summer school to learn how to type.
Like in 7th grade.
So you can do this, so you can be talking to somebody.
Yeah, I can do that.
That's an amazing skill.
No, we just had this device that way. And actually, in high school, I think it was really great. The green hornet, the classic, it's, you know. But, and. Yeah, I can't even use the phone, the trainer.
Yeah.
A number, but my head, 3 times passing over that. Again, it is. It's a.
Or maybe county can have it.
Well, I'm suggesting, one thing on Wednesday, that we have. Because what we need is a step.
You need to do stuff, yeah, and then to have better,
And
in the structures, like, for this is what needs to go.
and I'm going to Kelly, and she's pretty good. And I get that, but someone, and that's my favorite, it is. But they also take out of the budget that they get to be on the city. So the pension. There she is.
She can hear you. First,
Yeah.
Hello? Hi, Sarah.
First thing you got,
Yeah, I did.
and then you're not talking. So we don't.
There we go. Can you hear me, Sarah?
I can totally hear you. Yes. I'm here.
Great.
Hi, Sarah. Okay, I want to give what I think is excellent unsolicited advice.
Yes. Okay.
Keep your meetings to 1 hour.
Hmm.
Keep your meetings to 1 hour. Because, should I be on the microphone?
Yes.
Okay.
Hi, I'm Natalia from Holio Media. Sarah, I'm suggesting to the commission that they keep their meeting, you all keep your meetings to 1 hour because then more people will watch it. That's the way to make sure people watch what you're doing, is 1 hour. So from the time you begin, somebody put on their phone, the timer, and when you get to just 10 minutes, somebody say, okay, we got 10 minutes to start wrapping up. Okay, that's my excellent unsolicited advice.
No, I think it's true because council meetings,
We're
I start to
starting.
lose interest. Yeah. Okay, let's start. Yeah.
Okay, so you know what to do?
Yes. Stop it. You can leave and enjoy your night, hopefully warm and
Thank
comfy
you.
in
Yes.
PJs.
Warm and cuddly.
Yes. Yeah. All right. Hey, Caroline,
And is there a way we can get that off? the
Oh, what does
screen?
it say? Yeah, I can, I'll do that.
you can start while I do that.
Okay, welcome. It's Thursday, May 22nd. And I call to order the Holio Commission on Disabilities. I'm the chair, Lynn Horan. We've had a little bit of issue getting started with our tech, but it's starting now. So for beginners, I'd like to do roll call. So if you would just answer loud enough to hear, if you're virtual. Sarah Weedman,
Here.
Jessica Liebren.
Here.
And we have, I guess that's everybody. And then Kelly Curran
Here.
and Marlene Connor.
Here.
All right. I feel like I'm a teacher again. Okay. We don't seem to have any public participants tonight, and we have no guests this evening. So we're going to start off with accepting the notes from our last meeting in April. So if someone wants to.
So moved.
Okay, so again, all in favor of accepting the meetings from our, accepting the notes from our meeting last month in April? All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Okay, aye. Sounds good. All right, so we're going to start off with some old business catch up, and we've actually probably had more of that lately than anything. But so we're going to start off with the discussion on ordinance calling for handicap sign removal update on the process, which, as all members know, we've been working for some time with the ordinance committee, or at least trying to I spoke at it early on, probably about 8 or 9 months ago, about our willingness to be part of developing this additional policy and change in the ordinance to make it a more efficient process. As did the entire commission. We had Councilor Izzy Rivera come in and speak to us a couple months ago, and we all seem to be on the same page. We especially thank Betty Larrabee, who has almost 30 years in our commission and knows the history in this process pretty well. So all I want to say is we were invited to come to the ordinance meeting that was just last night, as a matter of fact, and have a chance to speak. We did not receive the actual ordinance change, which apparently they had already written up, which was unfortunate and a little bit confusing. Long, busy meeting for them, and so it took them a while to get to us. But basically, the outcome was pretty much all of the components, if you all remember, that we were looking for. There will be a translation, I believe, and we're all in agreement. And I myself, as Betty had talked with Brenna, as had Izzy Rivera, Councilor Rivera, with Brenna, our clerk, in the clerk's office, and they will be responsible for doing the work of a spreadsheet, so that we're going back a few years on that, and that should give us enough of an idea of where the signs are currently. We also talked at our last commission meeting too about density issue, which is really important, and I again brought that up last night, that we also understand that it's really important to be more efficient on the renewal process. There are lots of reasons that the handicap places that are in areas that are high density population and parking is much coveted there, that it's really important to get those signs up once the person moves or has no need of that space anymore. So we're hoping this whole process will definitely make this more efficient. I did send out to all members the ordinance. I was able to get a hold of it this afternoon from Jeffrey Anderson Burgos. And the only difference was the 2-year time that they selected. And I guess I feel like I have to kind of apologize to the commission members. I did the best I could. I was there through almost all of the meeting, and I was really taken aback because they did not, when they began the discussion of it, they did allow me to speak, but I did not realize and was not told that they were going to vote on it that night, and it was not given to me. So actually one of the other counselors gave me a hard copy of it to look at the last minute. So that's why I'm late in getting it to you. When they asked me what I thought about the 2-year, I simply told them that, as a commission, we have to vote as a full group on our approval of things, just like any other commission or committee. And that we would have the meeting tonight, but they wanted to go ahead and vote on it anyway. Councilor Rivera told us, however, since we were meeting tonight, if anyone had a real problem with that change to 2 years or anything else on it, to let him know right away. So that's pretty much it. Does anybody else have any other questions?
No, and I know that you just sent it out, and I brought my iPad. I was thinking
Right.
I could download it, and it's like not downloading. I got a big white screen.
Yeah, clearly we're having a tech virus that's been going on for a while.
I think it's
So-
also posted, I don't know which, it might have the date on it. So if you can't see your email, you might be able to see it on Jeffrey's folders that are attached to the agendas and stuff online.
Okay.
But I can,
To the ordinance committee?
Yep.
So City of Holyoke?
yeah. But I can also just share it.
She is a fast typer.
I
You
can't,
can share that.
I can't share it on
Yeah.
the big screen, but I have it here.
Yeah, and I would ask, unfortunately, again, Betty was the first one to even happen to notice that there was going to be this change just by watching an ordinance meeting. And she has done a lot of work, and as we have discussed in the commission, the four comments that she had made that we also discussed with Councilor Rivera a couple months ago, I think most has been addressed. But now that you've had a chance, Sarah or Jessica, do you have any questions?
This is
Why
Sarah.
not?
No, not at this time.
Not at this time for me, Jessica.
Okay. Well, this is it. So, because they have, amended that order. It is
So it's,
going out there. So,
is the 2 year that they're going to review every 2 years or?
yeah.
That's the idea. I
Yes.
feel like 2 years will come around fast, but
Yeah, I'm a little worried about it being
Yeah.
3 years. And we had said 3 to 5, and he seemed comfortable with that, but somebody wanted to do it. And that may have been part of the discussion with he and Brenna. Again, I'm discouraged that we couldn't have been involved in better communication, but I do think the process is gonna start. And again, kudos to our city clerk and her office for taking on yet another task. Some of that stuff is already there anyway. And I don't think there's anything to stop us as well. If we feel like there are other things that we would like to see, like for instance, Betty had suggested contacting our new engineer for mapping and density charts. There's nothing to stop us from still having the communication with the other city workers that are involved. DPW the same way. I would think they probably have a good sense of locations of these signs, and that might be also helpful as we start the actual process of each time we do a renewal. And I also agree with Betty that I think and this will be the final thing I have to say on this item, is that Betty and Don had done an education meeting of sorts with the city councilors when they changed recently, because she brings up a good point that we get new city councilors in all the time, and it's an unknown process to most councilors. And so we may look into ourselves in discussing with them a way that we can possibly do training a little more regularly when we do get new counselors in. So everybody has an idea of how to go about it. But if there are no more questions, I'm ready to move on. So let's go to, we're going to be doing, well, we had another big event, of course, and that was our brand new ask of a budget, first time for the Commission on Disability. That meeting was, the meeting nights are blurring for me now. I think was that last Monday, right? This past Monday, yeah. No wonder I'm in a daze. So, I did attend that, and Kelly, and I know some of you have watched a recording of the meeting, but again, our the mayor. It was actually the mayor's budget meeting. We were one of the first, if not the first, to be called to discuss the budget items, since it is a first-time budget for the Commission on Disability in Holyoke. And I presented the 4 items and categories of the areas that we're going to work in, where the budget is going to come from the handicap parking fines that have been collected for many decades now, and the uses, as I said, as well as opening it up to discussion for questions. I think overall it was, and I should also note too, and much thanks to Councilor Patty Devine, who knew we were going about it, has helped us with all sorts of issues so far, including the police doors, which we'll talk about shortly too, and offered to spearhead this process. So I think the meeting was very positive for the most part. Again, I'm a teacher, and I always think when you get lots of questions, that's a sign of interest. I've been to state hearings on disability issues, pretty serious ones, with remarkable testimony from many people, and they're lucky if they get one question. So it shows interest. I think they were all legitimate questions. It is new. Practical questions of where the money was coming from. Our treasurer, Rory, was also there to give them some of that information. We all have solicited that information from the treasurer's office, as well as Laura there and our auditor as well. So we have a pretty basic idea of what the ask should be and could be. So, and for the members that may have missed that meeting, I would strongly advise you to see if you can't take a look at the recording of it, because it's very helpful. And I think overall, everything was quite positive for the most part, but we are only in the beginning of the process. So the process will now be that they Councilor Devine called me today and said they are definitely going to put it on the agenda for Tuesday, the 27th. It goes to the Finance Committee. They will discuss it. I'm planning on going, and I'm hoping that any other members that are in town or will also be there. So it's not always just my face they see. Jessica and I have talked at length about it. And Jessica, of course, is bravely offered to be our treasurer as well, to add that to her list of many life responsibilities. So, and she's a sharp cookie for that and has plenty of experience in that. And what she doesn't know, she can learn fast. I think Jessica's going to try to attend that as well. And I will be sending a reminder out to all members as well of the time and day of that. Should we be fortunate to make a good case, and they would then move it on for full city council vote, which we're hoping to try to get to by, I believe the date is June 3rd. And our desire, very strong desire, is to get it moved forward before summer break. I also want to note too, and thank and did at that meeting, our mayor, who's been very supportive, and we, between he and I, tried to explain that we are also, because we know that the process for the budget, independent budget, which we've also talked to the state, and we're in alignment with those requirements as well. That takes a lot longer. And knowing that the mayor had his budget going right away, we're really appreciative that we may start to be able to see something if all this approval goes through, maybe by fiscal year 2025. Again, as we've discussed, there are so many pretty horrifying guts to the funds that are coming into towns like ours all around the country because of cuts in things like Medicaid, which particularly hurt the group of people that we represent, disabled folks of all ages. Also cuts to education, transportation, all sorts of things. So I feel it is, and I didn't speak of that at the meeting too, because the fact is we are reliant on that support. So we're hoping that this is a way to at least give some aid to these folks. So again, we'll go in the next process, and our next step too is to bring in other folks for support at those final meetings, which you'll be hearing. I'll be sending out more emails, and so will we on our Facebook as well, Sarah, that I'll be talking to you more about posting some information when it's time for public comment, and that's going to come up pretty fast, so we'll be doing that pretty quickly. But again, Councilor Devine felt positive about it. We all did. Doesn't mean we won't have questions, legitimate ones, but I really think we've got them pretty much covered. One of the, a number of the questions, of course, we're trying to ascertain, as Rory was helpful with, and I have more information that I can send out from that office too on the specifics of the amount of money typically brought in. We also know Councilor Rivera brought up the question of who are the enforcers not going to get paid? In other words, the folks that enforce the tickets. And while I certainly am considering that, and we're really grateful that clearly we have a combined, and this is who does it, and Kelly has also reinforced that we have 2 ticket givers that are hired specifically for tickets, for all tickets. My understanding is you'll see them downtown the most. And they are paid for that job. And then we also have the police doing it as well, which I imagine they're more likely to be responsible at larger places like the Holio Mall and outside the center of the city, et cetera. So it's a combined effort through law enforcement. And we certainly are grateful. I think it's worth touching base with them to let them know what we're doing and to encourage them to, again, what law is worth its weight in gold without enforcement. So we are certainly grateful that, but our feeling also is they do get a salary, and that salary is for enforcing the law, and this is a law. And I would also say to and remind all of us that this law is about people like myself, like the members on this commission, like the people that we represent, to protect disabled people. It is not to gain revenue. It is to protect us. The enforcement and the fines encourage people not to break the law. So I think it makes sense that at least a large portion, if not all of those fines, should be contributory to this group that is really in need. And had it not been for the ADA law and for this law to start off with to protect people like me, there would not be this revenue coming in anyway. So that's pretty much, again, anybody have questions? Marlene?
Sure. So over the last couple weeks, I went through this lovely book,
Yes.
and
Our Bible.
I got in contact with commissions on disability in some of peer communities in Holyoke so that I can understand, especially I contacted the ones that have listed in here as using that money to do certain things in their communities. So who I've spent the most time talking to is the AGWAM,
Mhm.
Commission on Disabilities. I was glad I could get somebody that was local. And then I spent some time talking to the folks in Watertown. And I've gone back and forth with people in other places, but I wanted to share with us what I was learning from those places.
Please do.
So in Agawam, the Commission on Disabilities is part of their Council on Aging. So the Council on Aging Director, part of her salary is to be the staff person for the town of Agawam for the Disability Commission, and there is an established commission. They have access. There is the handicap parking violation fund. She said it's probably around 11,000-ish that's in that account. And the accounts are in both Agawam and in Watertown. The fund was treated as sort of a revolving account. You know, so the money comes in to the, and then the commissions have access to use that money to do certain things that are approved by, or that the commission has approved
That's
within the confines
That's
of.
of real interest, Marlene, because one of the advantage that I heard of from talking to Jeff Dugan up at the state of having an independent budget is that not only is it revolving, but you can move money should there be a change where one of our categories needs more than another or that sort of thing. But actually, one of the counselors did ask about a revolving account.
Yeah,
So
and
that'll be
so that's how
helpful.
it's set up. So it's not, it doesn't look, so in the city budget, it doesn't say Agawam Commission on Disabilities, or it doesn't say Watertown Commission on Disabilities. The money is there allocated, the money that is ticketed for, so the amount of money is in there. And in Watertown's case, she said it's about 60,000 or 65,000 now. Been up as high as 100, been lower than that. But as the commission needs to support activities in the community, they have the ability to use those funds. And the one thing that Watertown suggested that we might want to consider doing is they got a grant from the Massachusetts Office on Disability to do a accessibility study, a self-assessment for the city.
Nice.
So the commission would pay for the fund for them to hire a consultant to do an evaluation of the physical construct of Watertown to see which buildings and which roads need curb cuts, which sidewalks need curb cuts, and which buildings need physical support. The commission in Watertown funds things like making sure that there are American Sign Language interpreters
Mhm.
at all the municipal meetings, at all their city meetings. Same in Agawam. Money is available to do some marketing. They've used funds to make handicapped the front door of the senior center in Agawam,
Mhm.
and same in Watertown.
Right.
So the funds are, they've all talked about doing the same things that we are talking about,
Right.
but they have access to use those funds through that 22G. So again, it's not a city commission. It doesn't appear in the budget as a Commission on Disability budget. It's all the handicap funds go into this account, and those funds then are available for the commission to be able to use for any number of items that
Right.
so they don't have like education or transfer. They don't have the budget broken down.
Mhm.
It's a line item that's got the amount in there of all the handicap violation, and they use those funds as needed on a project by project basis. So
So
that's
it's not really an independent
it's
budget.
not like an independent budget.
I'm mixed about that personally,
Yeah. So anyway,
Yep.
so that's what
but
Watertown
that's
does.
interesting.
That's what Agawam does.
Mhm.
And the woman in Watertown sort of, believes that that is what many of the municipalities in Holyoke probably, or in the state probably do,
Hmm.
that they have budgets that people can use.
I don't know if I'm imagining this, but I think I heard a revolving accounts are not favored. Like, it's not something, I don't know if it was a specific reason, it wasn't to do with Commission for Disabilities, but I thought I heard someone say during the meeting Monday.
Rory
Yeah.
had
Yeah,
mentioned
that
something,
revolving
that you
accounts are not-
can't do it in the city budget that way, or, there was definitely
It was a
something
comment
difficult
made,
about it.
yeah.
And more likely. But it also reminds me that it's probably, and we got to think how we have to do this fast because you're gonna be out of town, which is unfortunate, to possibly meet, because we really need to have this down. And again, Kelly's right. That's one of the things we heard. And the things that I've seen in other ones, they also, a lot of the smaller towns anyway, less populated than Springfield and Holyoke and Worcester, don't have a lot of money either. They don't collect a lot of fines, but still, if I know that you sent us some information already, but any summation or anything
Yep,
that
and
you
I'm
can
gonna
kind of
continue-
send
and I'll
to
continue
us.
talking, but the folks I've talked to so far
Yep.
don't have independent budget. They have money that's available.
Mhm.
Commission decides how to use that money,
Right.
and it's the commission's decision. And and each one of them, it's the ADA coordinator is the city staff.
Yeah, I
of
can
the
email my
commissions.
HR group, but it's like different municipalities, the personnel person is not the ADA coordinator,
Right.
but they
Yeah,
might
it's
know, so I
Like
can,
in
yeah.
Watertown, it's the director of veteran services is also the commission leader. And
Oh, that's interesting.
yeah, anyway,
That's
so
well-
people,
Generally, it's DPW or city planning, because they tend to deal with the folks the most
Right.
that deal with the sorts of issues that we can do. But
in Agawam's case, the staff person to the commission is the council on aging director.
Hmm.
Because there needs the commission's
yeah,
need to have
again,
a city
I think
employee, and that's
for me, the whole idea of the independent budget is just that. And as you see in the Bible there, that, by the way, which is a great organization, that we actually have an alliance of commissions on disability. And we should find out more and see when their meetings are, because trading information, just like what you're finding out, is of huge benefit.
Yep.
But that's my personal feeling from everything I've read about it. I think particularly for Holyoke and where we are and our need, being the population we are, is that we really, independent is the word.
right. And we have, I think, the ideas the things that we've talked about, the transportation,
Mhm,
those are the types of activities
mhm.
that the activities that we're looking at are the same.
Yeah.
Similar activities.
Yeah.
What is happening.
And they're going to still align it through the state and in terms of their requirements. And once again, just reminding anybody who may or may not listen to this meeting that our categories are, of course, first, the commission needs, and that will include the survey.
Yep.
And as a number of people, including counselors, have said, that's, a good place to again pay for, and also be able to pay for an account for the tech that we need to record and these meetings, as a lot of other commissions do from their funds. And so all of that, again, commission needs is about how we do our job that is dictated us to do, to educate, to be resourceful, and helpful And again, the survey will go a long way to get data. So we know what the needs of our constituents are.
Everybody thinks that's a good idea.
Yeah.
And we do a survey and
Yeah.
everybody thinks it's a really good idea that we figure out the transportation piece.
Yeah, they really do. And that's the next item is transportation, which is just huge. Between Neve was actually at the meeting because she had to present her own budget, and we talked briefly before that too. And as you all know, we've had her here to talk, and I told her we were creating an independent budget and would be further working with her to see how we could best benefit making, again, the senior center events accessible through transportation where needed. And we'll see what develops with that.
So one,
yeah.
the woman from Agawam. So what the city of Agawam does
Mhm.
is, as Holyoke is, they're a PVTA member community. And so the Council on Aging gets the lift. So PVTA, before as they get new vehicles, they retire their vehicles. They're still usable.
Mhm.
And so, but they lease those accessible vehicles to Agawam and to a few other communities for no fee.
Mhm.
So they will give the Council on Aging those vehicles.
Mm.
And what then we'd need to organize with Neve
Mhm.
to see how she could implement the more accessible service. Like we would have to work with her to understand.
Right, and that's pretty much what East Hampton was saying that they could do, the information that we had gotten last year from them. There does seem all sorts of workable solutions, and particularly because while we'll be thrilled to get a budget, that always still will be able. It's not a large part of Holyoke's budget, by the way. It's pretty incremental. And by the way, we got a lot of support from Councilor Greenie, who I really want to thank, who obviously he and his wife live every day with the disability obstacles that we do. And he was highly supportive. And he was saying if it was taxpayers, which were paying for that, which it isn't, it is through these fines, that it would be, under $1 a person in Holyoke. That's a really small contribution for great benefits. But anyway, transportation definitely through the seniors and the senior center, and working with, at least we can make a contribution
Right.
that will maybe get them over a hump and help them out that way.
And the thought that they could get a vehicle, I mean, so there's capital cost and operating, the fact that they could get
Driver.
a vehicle
Mhm.
would make, so the cost would be the operating side of it, as opposed to nobody would have to worry about the capital piece of it.
Right.
Those vehicles could be made.
That's a really good point, Marlene. That's a very good point. And then the second part of that, of course, Marlene has also been working on, as a former transit authority, she's got some knowledge on that too, in terms of, again, alerting us to Medicaid obviously doesn't just provide medical help to individuals in need, low income and disabled, and often both here in our city, but transportation to get to doctors, to get to dialysis, to, get their kids to doctors, etc. So we really feel like, those two components of transportation, there are ways we can offset at least some of the blows we're going to be feeling in the next years. And then the third one is we had, and now I'm blanking on, I had these so memorized, too many meetings this week, clearly. Well, we have, the last one I know was, third one was education. So for disabled students, contributions towards goods and services. Again, contributions, and having talked to a number of folks in the education department here at Holyoke and some of the other organizations that work with the education department to help students who are disabled
Yeah,
have the same privileges of an education that they're completely up to doing. They just need a little extra help.
so one of the activities that I think Watertown did is they used the parking violation funds to provide iPads to students with special needs
Wonderful.
on the autism. Anyway, so that was part of what they used their resources for.
Right. Yep. And that is absolutely huge because so many kids, whether it's cerebral palsy, as Sarah knows very well, no matter what the disability is, brittle bone disease, that they are cognitively in there and they have hearts and souls and they are capable of learning. The communication part might be the difficulty, the mobility might be the difficulty, but they absolutely can, should, and want to learn. So if there's any way we can contribute to that, I think that's a great one as well, and also supported by state recommendations. And then the last one being for structures. And that again, you know, I think it, whenever fine, people certainly understand the need for making buildings accessible. Again, we are warned by the Alliance of Commissions on Disability, as well as the state, to remember that the state does provide, and that is another thing that perhaps I'll contact Councilor Greenie about if he's interested, that working with the mayor separately from the budget, because there are wonderful grants that we can still apply to. And we have not done, as the mayor has said himself. So we need to update our public buildings, and there's plenty of money through the state should we go through that process to get it.
The Massachusetts Commission on Disabilities has a municipal grant program. And that was, those are the funds that Watertown is using they've got this consultant working on the self-assessment for City of Watertown.
Yeah,
And
it's a big job. So, I mean, certainly we would want to be able to be helpful in terms of that. But for that state money, it's going to come in through, that's going to be DPW. And I know that because we are in the process of that when we lost our engineer back a year ago. So now that we have a new one, hopefully we'll get on that. But yeah, so they're building things little. There still could be something we could do, even like the police doors. The only reason I mention that again about the state funding is if it can already come from somewhere else and we don't have a big budget, that's where it should be coming from. But there's still smaller things we can do. And that also includes playgrounds. And I know I was reading about examples of other cities doing accessible ones too.
Yeah, that book has great examples. Interestingly, when I talked to people about the things in the book, they were like, oh, those were a long time ago. That was the first thing. Oh, those were a long time ago.
So was it a wait till you hear what we're doing now then? Did they
Well,
keep it
kind
up,
of.
or-
I mean, so they're doing in Watertown now, they're doing the self-assessment and they're using the funds to, have interpreters, and they did a restaurant guide to see which restaurants were accessible.
Right.
Anyway, so they've,
That's great.
tried as people.
Yeah, I mean,
things they-
they're really, and again, they're, part of our job is education and get information out and
And we'll know more after the
Yep.
survey. We'll know better
Yep.
what the needs are after we're
Yeah.
talking to the agencies and talking to
exactly.
the
No,
community.
I'm
I
also
think
wondering
that's the
if
core.
there's a way that we can pay someone or some people to be like boots on the ground, go out during the day, during the night, to see folks, to get answers that not everyone's on social media, so they're not gonna,
Yeah.
not everyone's at the senior center. So how do we get people who are not gonna offer, feedback? Like, how do
And, that's a good lead in because I think that's pretty much it. And again, because this process for the budget's going to move fast now, one way or the other. And so we'll be emailing on those dates and what everybody can do. But again, I really love to see as many members come out as can, particularly for that full vote meeting with city council when that happens. Yes, you'll be back. That'll be great. And that will be wonderful. So I do want to somewhat try to stick to what Natalia suggested too. We do want to go through all this, but does anybody else have any other questions currently about the budget process? Not hearing anybody? Okay. And Kelly, now jog my memory, you were saying something, oh yeah, the survey. So I don't actually have that in old business. All I would like to do is quickly remind everybody, Marlene and I talked, and Jessica as well, we're sans virus time. So those of us like myself that are immune compromised, we're sans COVID somewhat for now. It's a good time for me particularly, but all of us to go down. There's lots of activities happening downtown, and I have sorely missed them, as I was telling Councilor Ocasio last night. So I think we should start setting up, especially our meetings. We'll take a brief break too, to start doing some fun trips down there together.
We need
And
we need to
start
talk
just
to-
talking to the folks in the various community organizations we know, and hang out. They have some great stuff going on, and get to know folks. And that's the beginning of setting up the survey too. So that's all I wanted to say on that.
On the
Anything else?
survey, I had mentioned this like a year ago, I think, when I first started, but a quick start to the survey that would be inexpensive
Mhm.
would be, Holyoke Gas and Electric is still doing their,
Yes.
they do their monthly
Yes.
mailings. So they used to, I don't know if they still do, but they used to allow people to,
I think they
Mhm.
would, yeah.
And I think Patty Devine had suggested that
Okay.
is a
Did,
good
yeah.
place
that
to
would be
start
a
too.
way
Yeah.
without
Yeah.
a lot of expense to
Right.
at least initiate a survey process.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
I'm,
Yeah.
I'm happy to,
And everyone
to
has
try to help,
electric, so.
I'm
Yes.
happy to try to
Exactly.
help,
That is the advantage.
Think-
So, Yep.
figure out a
and we
survey.
just, again, it's hard enough and everybody's got great vision, but the application sometimes doesn't happen in terms of doing all these things. So once we get past, this ordinance thing now and also the budget, hopefully, that I think we can really jump in and do the thing we've wanted to do for the last 3 years, really. So good for the survey. Anybody else on that? All
No, I
right.
like the idea.
Yes.
I like the idea, Marlene. It's a good way to start that off. And also, I agree with you, Lynn. Right now, the budget and the ordinance is such a grueling process that once we get through it, we can move on to the survey.
Yeah. And so I'm going to go to Kelly because let's talk good news. One of the things, it's hard to believe, but it has actually been, I think, Jessica, almost 2 years since we first went to the mayor to talk about some of our newer ideas, including a shelter that was accessible at that time. And we first brought up the issue of the police doors. And so, Kelly, you have a nice update for us from Matt Peterson, I think.
The doors are all set and working great.
Yay.
It was a nice field trip, but it's not that nice.
Awesome.
I think
I'm
we
gonna go
should.
visit just to hit the
I
button.
think we should together.
Yeah.
I think we should have
Yep. Patty Devine said she thought they should do a photo op.
Yeah.
Yep.
So,
I'm there.
yep.
Let's
So
do it.
that's right. We never get to have any fun, right?
Especially after the article that just came out about how much better they're taking care of the building.
Yeah, yeah, and it is our public safety building, and I'm just so I'm very pleased. And you know, again, it did take 2 years. Hopefully, next time we get into something, it will be faster. One of the nice things I think that came out, kind of going back to the meeting and listening to the questions and support as well as questions. On the budget was we are starting to finally let people know we're here and what we do. More importantly, hopefully, we're starting to let the rest of the population know that their disabled residents are really wonderful, amazing, innovative, hardworking, resourceful residents of Holyoke who we need to support. So I think all that's good. And so, yeah, we really did kind of open some doors, for a corny pun on that. So congratulations. And thanks, Kelly, on your work on that too. And to Matt as well. So, because there's no doubt he, as I told him when we got the good news, that he'll probably be glad, and we are glad that it's one item we can take off of our monthly agenda finally, and he can take us off his long list of things to do as well. So it's all good. All right. So next is pretty quick. So an update on the Massachusetts bills, the Senate 548 and House 915, which is, as you remember, an act expanding access to trails for people of all abilities in the state of Massachusetts. Meg Bandera, who runs an All Trails organization that is just wonderful for information for both people who build trails, do trails, and walk, roll, and run on trails, and accessibility on them, has, as you know, presented these two bills last year to the state and asked us, like many commissions and many cities around the state of Massachusetts, to write letters of support from their commissions. We did. It's back up again. We hope to get it a little further this time. And so I did update the letter as we had all agreed to do in the last meeting, and it's been sent out. And also wanted to let you know that I asked Pat Duffy if she'll co-sponsor it, and she was more than glad to. So that was also good news. So we have a lot of good Holyoke spirit there behind that. Anything else on that? Anybody have any questions? And I would suggest, if the weather does really start feeling like spring and drier, do some roll trips, go outside, start looking at some of these great trails. So now I would go on to let's talk both our. You need a drink? Are you okay? Okay. The variance for Lyman Street and Maple Street building, which we received at the end of March. I'm sad to say they're going to get the variance. I guess the better way to say it is I'm glad to see buildings, old, beautiful buildings, get renewed life and also become revenue for our city instead of just empty buildings. I'm certainly glad of that. But I wish there had been a way that we could have had a couple accessible apartments in that building. I did go and talk to the head of the Massachusetts Architectural Board. He gave me a fair amount of time. unfortunately, they did make a mistake that was concerning, but it should keep us all a little more wary. When we receive these variances, we have to act almost immediately because of how often they meet and they're the final word on granting the variance. If we have to have a concern, we need to give them notice in 2 weeks. And
Like, so a question
Yeah.
in general
yeah,
is like, what is the point of making apartments on the second and third floor accessible and the laundry room accessible if you can't get into the building in the first place? That makes zero sense.
it
to a
does.
human.
And
That, like, doesn't make.
And there were a number of things there. The bottom line with it that, well, first I want to tell you too, what I found out is when I first called them about this, and I also called the state and to Jeffrey Dugan's office, and I couldn't really get a lot of answers about what the proper process was. They in their departments, Jeffrey Dugan and his department at MOD is not allowed to hear any details of a specific request for a variance because they themselves may have to weigh in on it, conflict of interest, whatever, which I understand. So they sent me to the Massachusetts Architectural Board, and the first woman I spoke to did not really seem to know a lot. She sent us the application in an email. They're required to send it to also one of the local independent centers for living, as well as the local municipal Commission on Disability. And the form was not all filled out. So they are requesting a variance based on the Massachusetts law that if the assessed value of the building, if the renovation is, I believe, more than 30% of that assessed value, then they can get the variance. And the thing that was funny about that, it was originally sent in without an assessment value, first of all, which kind of looks like they just assumed they could have it and it didn't have to fill out such an important form. That concerned me. But Molly did, on that same email she sent me, ask for the assessment, and they did give it. It was a pretty minimal amount, like $131,000 that the assessment was for. And at that time, I believe in the variance, and you all got copies of it, that they were saying the renovation was going to be about $1 million. Then, as I told you last time, what we heard that concerned me even more was that they received an almost $1 million grant from the state. So, so I did call the head of the Architectural Access, Massachusetts Architectural Access Board, and he went over the floor plan more with me, and I really feel that there really wasn't much room. When I was looking at it, I saw the bottom floor does not have a common area because, and part of that problem is because their office, their business space, which is going to be an accessible entrance, just not to the rest of the building, takes up a lot of that floor space. So there's, it's almost impossible to abide by all the fire safety issues, to be able to open doors, etc., in the amount of apartments they wanted. And his feeling was, in the end, that even if he had known about this grant and other things, that it is likely they would have ruled the same way. And by the way, what he told me and what Molly didn't tell me, they had already reviewed it. So by the time I called Molly, and she never told me that. So, I asked him about that and I said, well, aren't you required to send me a copy of that review? And he said, yes, they were. And he said, apparently I sent it to the wrong email address. And he looked it up and he had sent it to our former chair, Don. And I said, but Molly sent it to the right one originally, and we have corrected it on there. So that wasn't too, yeah, another case of oops, oh well. So there really isn't a lot, I think, that we can do at this point. And he did. I said, well, I would hope that you would send me the final review. So they did, and I will send copies of that on to you all. It's very disappointing, but again, we are forewarned we don't want to rubber stamp these. We want to support really good, positive development in Holyoke. And we don't want to be prohibitive to that, but we also don't want to get into rubber stamping things and just saying this is okay. And it is what our job is to do, is to review that. I went over the law with a fine-tooth comb and spoke to a number of people at the state. So, yeah, we do have that right to do it. So that's it for the variance. Hello, Tech. Yes. Yeah, please, Friday, come quick. So anyway, anybody else have any questions on the variance?
No.
All right, so we'll be looking. We don't seem to get a whole lot. I've only been here for 3 years, and I think that's true of most of us here now, with the exception of Kelly. And I don't think we get a huge amount, but we'll see. We'll be on the lookout. So now I'd say that we can move very quickly to the sign applications. Jessica helped me out tremendously by doing site visits at 2 of them, and I'm going to ask her about those. And after that, I also did 2 of the newer ones too. And all I would say is that on the last meeting we had, before we did the site visits, we had already decided on those 2 that they both were not quite complete applications. And I've contacted Jeff about getting those 2 line items for both of those filled out completely. But so Jessica, you want to tell us what the sites look like?
Sure. So for Mr. Angel Lopez, for one, he has an unfinished application. And I have some questions regarding his applications because I need clarification. It says Mr. Lopez cannot park in off-street parking, as a landlord uses that. So I'm taking it, he cannot park in the driveway, correct? That street is on a dead end.
Yes.
So I'm trying to figure out, does he wants the parking sign in front of the home versus there's plenty of ample parking space. The street is a dead end. There's no parking issue. So that's what I'm questioning.
Yeah.
Along
And that
with
was,
the unfinished, there's a warehouse across the street from him. And if you go further down, there's like 3 more houses and a dead end. So there's not that much traffic that would prevent him from parking in front of the home. So I'm still not sure about that, along with his unfinished
and
application.
that's Angel Lopez, right?
Correct. On 3 Vernon Street.
Yeah. And so I'm hoping that he'll fill that out better so that, I mean, this seems to be the biggest issue we have, is getting those applications filled out to completion. Another reason why I think it'd be really great, again, to go over the process, have a public posting of it somewhere, that helps people understand why it's important to fill those things out. But yeah, so we still need him to do two, is what I said to Jeffrey. And hopefully, again, he can elucidate what that is. I'm trying to see too, when his tag expired, was he the one? No, he wasn't. There was someone whose tag expires very soon, which also concerned me too, how that works. But yeah, his is good till the 28th. So I think I'm hoping he will send us information with more clarification as to why he needs that, why he doesn't have access added at this point. And I guess that's all we can do is wait for that information. And Jessica, I appreciate you going by. Anything else on that one?
No, I
And
just
how
needed
about the
more
other?
clarification. I do have Miss Georgina Reyes, the 292 Pine Street.
Mhm.
I passed by and I do see the need because the senior center is right across the street. That's a busy area. Across the street is a lot of no parking signs, so I could see where it limits the parking for the residents on the opposite side.
Yeah.
I do see that the neighbor um has the parking sign up. I know once a parking sign is put up, it's available for anyone with a handicap parking um decal, but I'm not sure how or if it would cause a conflict with having too many signs on the same street. I do see the need for it for her though, especially if she's not allowed to park in her parking lot. I mean, in her driveway, and being limited parking spaces across the street and the busy traffic flow from the senior center. So I do feel like she needs it. I just don't know if they would put one up side by side to a pre-existing one.
Yeah, see, I had that same thing with one of the site visits I did. And it comes back to the ordinance important again, is that other one being used, by the people that requested it still or not?
So
So
is there a way, not to interrupt, is there a way
yeah.
for us to find out who put in for that existing sign?
I would think we could call the city clerk's office, and find out.
I would think it would be, that would
Yep.
be where to find it.
Yep. So Jessica, can you do that and check
Sure.
and see?
I can.
Yeah, exactly. She's good on email. That sounds like a good plan. So for Nelson Vega, I'm going to put down that Jess is going to check with Brenna. And please let me know what you find out.
Was that
Because
for Nelson Vega or for Georgina Reyes?
I'm sorry, that was Georgina, wasn't it? Because
Yes.
well, you tell me, that's the one across from the senior center, correct?
Correct.
Mhm. Okay, so I'll put you down for checking with Brenna. Okay. And then we'll wait to see. So we wait to see for Angel Lopez. on that. And then on the two that I looked at that came in more newly, so for Jarvis Avenue, and I took photos, didn't have time to send them out to you this time. So for, no, I'm sorry, for North Bridge, no, where am I? Yes. Yeah, so for North Bridge Street for Nelson Vega, where that's located actually sounds like a very similar case. So it's at a dead end street there, past the two canals there in the flats. And he has told us that there is no off-street parking, street parking only. And so I went down there and took a look at it. So I'm assuming what he's saying is that the parking lot, and it looks like it belongs to the other building. And it was the same thing. So his house and driveway was probably just another driveway's length or another house length, yard length away from a sign that was already there. So at the time that I went, there were no cars. Not much there, but it's always hard to tell during the daytime because people are at work or errands or things like that. So it's kind of impossible to say. So I might ask you if you contact Jessica Brenna to look up Nelson Vega as well on North Bridge Street, because again, I don't know what the restrictions are. And when we're sitting here working on an ordinance, again, when there's not a lot of parking except on street, to have, you know, I mean, some neighborhoods are going to have, for various reasons, older people, as we actually talked about at the ordinance meeting. But I think, yeah, that it would be at least pertinent to go contact Brenna and see what she says. And as far as, you know, our bylaws, I'm going to have to look that up in terms of how those places, how many, if there's a restriction on how many handicap sign places you can have on a block. I don't know that there would be, but it's still worth looking at. Well, at least what we could do is if we can get the names of those other parking space owners, then we can contact them and find out if they do indeed still need those spaces. So, and the sooner we get on it, I really have been trying to get on these things faster. We know what it's like to have to wait for these things to happen. And we meet once a month. They already have to wait that long. So Jessica, if you could do that for both of those properties, if you don't mind, that would be great. And then just fire me off an email and let me know what you find out.
So, okay, so to reach out for Georgina and Nelson on the South Bridge Street or North Bridge Street.
Yes.
Okay, that's fine. But might
That
I
would be
add,
great.
this further
Yeah.
confirms why the data and a better
Yeah.
process, a structured process is needed to
Amen.
avoid all of this confusion. Because had we had that information, we can already see who that sign was requested for at 286 or 284 Pine Street.
That's right.
So it just,
That's right.
what it does is just further confirms why we need that data
Yeah.
to make
So-
this whole system, this more structured.
In a minute, I'm gonna ask for a tabling, unfortunately, of those three. Good news is I think we actually can vote on Carrie Padua's for a number of reasons. She did a great job. It shows you it helps when the application is filled out all the way. And yeah, and I try so hard as an art teacher not to criticize. And actually people do a relatively good job. But it really does help when you have everything on there that you really need to know. And then she also explained very nicely, as you'll see on the back, about her 15-year-old son. He's on a ventilator machine, oxygen, cannot walk on his own, speak easily, etc. And as she explains, and then when I did the site visit, and I may have told Sarah when we were talking about something recently about this, she understands this. I pulled up in front of, this is Jarvis Apartments there, right on off Jarvis Avenue. The parking lots that they do have handicap spots, but the entrance to her apartment is off that Jarvis Street, that big street there. And it's a huge lawn in front of it for her to walk from the street. And I don't even know, by the way, if they can have signs there. That's another thing. I said, well, I thought we could vote on this. But anyway, I pulled up on that street. On the side parking lots, there are no, there are plenty of handicap spaces, but they're way on the side of these long buildings. She would have to carry them an enormously long way. So it's clear. And it was clear to me when I read it and saw the building. And then this car pulls up in front of me. A very young woman gets out of the car, pulls up the hatch of the back of her car in front of me, and there's a wheelchair in there. So lo and behold, it was her. So I did introduce myself. I thought that was okay to do. And she described, what the difficulties were. Very proud mama even showed me his picture close up on the phone, which was sweet. And I told her, please look on our Facebook page, and we have a number of members who deal with disability themselves. We even have a mom of a son with issues somewhat similar to that of Elijah's, and we are a source for resources. So please, feel free to come to a meeting, ask questions, send us an email. And she seemed very enthusiastic about that. And I said, we will try to process this as fast as we certainly can on this. But so, again, my only problem with that, it seems clear to me, if you all agree, that everything looks good. The only thing I was not sure as I drove away, whether you actually can park on that road.
And I'm not sure, is that a state? That's not a state road.
No.
The DPW would,
Yeah.
would know. So
What is the name of the road again?
is it Jarvis?
Jarvis Avenue.
Jarvis.
Yeah. That would be great. I would really love to be able to get at least one of these off right away rather than wait another month. So we'll hold on a second for that. So as Kelly, who has been a whiz kid tonight, on her phone and computer, thankfully. And he's on vacation.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's-
He tried to be, but yesterday something came up today.
There's always going to be something coming up.
But it
Uh.
seems like it attracts more when you try to go away and like.
I'm convinced of it. Or the voodoo doll starts coming in when somebody heard that you were going to escape finally.
Right.
So
You actually have fun with your family.
what was that? Vague memories. So you know, are you saying it's possible he still could answer, or you definitely think he's
Who's the mayor?
no, the
Oh.
DPW?
I emailed him,
All right.
but I mean, I think we can vote on it and say if it's,
Yeah.
if it's
Yes.
still pending, like.
Yes. Okay, that sounds good. So I want to ask for someone, ask for
Sign application for Carrie Hadwell at 330 Jarvis Avenue.
pending verification that we can indeed place the sign on Jarvis Avenue. All,
Or greater minds than us.
anybody second? Or, all right. Anybody second? You guys wake over there. We can't tell. We can't hear you. That's right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, sounds good. Okay, so I will pass that on tonight. I'll go ahead. No, I won't do that, just in case he's crazy and answers his emails in the evening. I'll let him go till tomorrow morning, but I will notify Jeffrey then. All right, so only two things are good things, I hope. First of all, I would like to propose that we have an executive meeting between all of our members pretty soon, because all people will be going out, hopefully traveling, and we'll have a summer break. The reason I'd like to do that is you guys are pretty amazing, but we're having a hard time. I don't know who has the voodoo doll for us lately. We've had 2 members lose their fathers in the last year and a half. We have our former chair battling cancer, Betty out with knee surgery. It's just been, plus what I want to stress to the city council is most of us have these issues in our lives to deal with anyway. It's not easy to do what we're doing. Kelly wears a bazillion hats, and she has a family, and hopefully they're learning to cook now.
I'm on the record, I cooked 3, so I worked from home today. I was able to make dinner, made it twice, 2 other times this week, because they want to eat out every day. I'm like, that's not expensive, but so.
It is. Yeah, but the truth, Sarah and her kids and family, and Baxter's healthcare 24 hours, Jessica with hers as well, also still got a family at home, working. So what I'd like to do, because these things are going to happen sometimes to us, is have just the group of us get together for a brief time, whether we want to do it. And the advantage of the executive is that we can close it to the public, so we can speak openly with each other about our needs and contributions. What I'd kind of like to iron out is what we see each of our roles are. Communication is key. It doesn't mean that there's not flex, that somebody goes out or has something, then the other one can't roll in. But I feel like, and we're also doing an awful lot too. I feel like I know for me as a chair, it'll be really helpful to know where each of you are and what you think you can contribute, what we're required to contribute. So we have a basic idea of that, and then I think things will go smoother in lots of ways, if that makes sense. So we have the option to either do that, from what I understand of the law with it. We can do that at the beginning or the end of a meeting privately, or I was going to even suggest, because we can do this without the public, I was going to even suggest come out to my place. And it actually does look like spring out there. Some of you have been there, and our budget committee has met there before. It's pretty comfortable, and we can just have it doesn't have to be a long discussion, but a quick, open, kind of nice, relaxing one after how hard everybody's been working. So I would say, all in favor?
I'm in.
I'm in.
Anybody?
Yeah.
Sarah and
yes, yeah, we're
Baxter?
in.
Mhm. Is Baxter in?
To be decided.
That's what I really
think.
need to know. Okay. I haven't had my eyes on him in a while, so I'm gonna see. Okay, so I'll be in touch with you guys. We can shoot out some dates, because I know it's still pretty hairy time right now in the city. So, but that's great. And then the final thing, final ending agenda note, I think is good news. So, I thought of someone. I don't know why I didn't think of her sooner, that I think would be a lovely addition to our commission. Because I think, again, more hands, lighter work.
Yep.
And we could, Betty's been great, and she's going to stay on the rest of her 2 years, but she has talked about ending it then, and she has every right to. And sadly, I have not heard from Leanna. I hope she's okay. But we've lost, her for now anyway. So Heather Leanders is her name. I've known her for some time. She has always been a lovely friend to me. She has worked in the arts area with Jeff Bianchini through the city. She has also has her own chronic health issues, as well as taking care of her mother at this point in time as well. So she definitely has great qualifications. And I have to tell you, every time I post about a disability issue, which I do a lot of, granted, lately, she's always the first one to support, affirm, contribute something. She is the one who helped me get my first COVID shot. Remember when they were so hard to access? If it wasn't for her paying attention and letting me know right away and me getting there, it would have been a long time yet. So really kind, wonderful person. She's actually very excited about it. She knows Josh. So she's going through the process. So hopefully we can get her on sooner than later. So I think that's good news. So, I have nothing else that I think that I have to add. So if everybody's ready to go home, then I would like to call to adjourn this meeting.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, aye. Good night. Thanks all.
Good night, ladies.
Good night.
Night, you too.
I should fly out of here tonight. Husband's birthday. I should go home
On
and make
top
dinner.
of everything.
I should go make dinner.
Are you serious?
I gotta go make dinner. It's his birthday.
Gosh, I tell you. Well, when do you leave?
Tomorrow.
Both of you?
Yeah.
Okay, so you're not deserting them.
No.
Okay, and you might desert